Does stress really drive productivity, or is it secretly sabotaging your team's deliverables? Let's dive into neuroscience a little bit and figure out how you best can create an environment for your developers to produce at maximum capacity. I once had this brilliant CEO, and she used to say that, you need to add a little bit of stress to your development team all the time. That helps to keep them motivated. And that always rubbed me the wrong way, because for me, being stressed is not the reason to go to work. That's not why I work. And I don't think any of my developers really go to work because they're stressed and deadlines. They go to work because they want to do a good job. So let's dig into a little bit of that. All right, let's talk about stress and specifically how it applies to knowledge workers. So back in the day, when the majority of workers were physical laborers, they realized that you could get more output out of your workers if you let them rest, so their muscles don't twine down and they need to be strong to do the physical labor. There is a similar parallel going on with knowledge work. You see, with knowledge work, we don't use our muscles to produce things. We use our prefrontal cortex, the big part up here. And the prefrontal cortex, it uses a lot of energy. And it's one of the areas in our brain that is connected to logical thinking and like solution orientation. And this is the part that we're engaging in, especially when we're trying to solve difficult problems, such as what we do when we're doing software development. And it keeps a lot of energy to keep this running. So there's another part in your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala, it takes care of your fear, more or less. It's the part that handles the fight or flight response of your brain. It's one of the oldest parts of our brain. We can track it back through evolution and see how it's always been a part of our brain. And it's in charge of keeping us safe. However, the amygdala is designed for us being in an environment with saber-toothed tigers, bears, and other really dangerous predators. And it's not really designed, it can't really see the difference between an approaching deadline and an approaching lion. And what it's designed to do is to make sure that you survive. You should survive this encounter with a lion, so to speak. So what do you do then? Well, you reroute your resources into the parts of your body that helps you survive this lion encounter. So the amygdala is literally designed to reduce the amount of energy you use in your brain in things that are for long-term thinking and problem solution. It literally turns off your prefrontal cortex. So if you get a high enough stress level, your amygdala will kick in and it will start reducing your the amount of energy that goes to your prefrontal cortex, and it's going to be more and more difficult for you to find the solutions or think clearly. Most of us have already encountered a scenario where stress sort of turns us off and we get overwhelmed and we just stare at the problem and we don't really what are we going to do now? And this is not helpful. We're wasting time, we're wasting energy, and we're not solution oriented, because the fear is making sure that the things we need to solve the problem, if you will, are shut off. So there's this story in Atomic Habits, which is a really good book that I recommend you read, about the British cycling team, I think it is, where they were really, really bad, but they tried to work on every little improvement that they could. Even a 1% improvement was something that I wanted to do. And they, as far as I know, or at least what I've heard, is they were the ones who started shaving their legs, because that was a 1% reduction in drag air, or your aerodynamics are so much better with that. And the idea is that this bicycle team, they started doing improvements, and they started compounding these improvements. So 1% here, 2% there, 1% there, it all added up. And it's the story of compounded interest, if you will. If we create an environment where we are a little bit better, where our developers can focus a little bit more on the code, and we do this continually, the payoff will become better and better over time. So as a team leader or a manager, it's your responsibility to figure out, how do I get my team to work at maximum capacity without burning out? So as a team leader or a manager, it's your responsibility to figure out, how do I get my team to work at maximum capacity without burning out? Keeping in mind that the most expensive part of software development is the software salaries in themselves. The longer you have a software developer working on a problem, the more expensive the solution to that problem will be. And you don't really have a lot of things you can do at your disposal. You can hire the best talent that you can attract and afford. You can make sure that you invest in training your developers, so they're always as good as possible. They know how to solve problems, and you help them improve, so to speak. You can make sure that there's no technical debt holding them back in the software, so that when they go on and try to actually solve a problem, they know how to do it, they know where to change the code, and the code is easy and to manage and evolve. You can make sure that they have the right tools. You can make sure that they're working on the right tasks, or not wasting time on tasks that aren't prioritized. You can make sure that the software developers always have access to the stakeholders that they need. So if they get stuck on some sort of decision where should this button be blue or red, or is it really important for us to delete this information, or should we keep it for some reason? And so instead of them waiting for an answer, or they can just ask the stakeholder, at least they have a regular meeting where they check in, and it's like, okay, we're trying to solve the solution this way, what do you think about that? You can make sure that you have just the right amount of process, so that you're not wasting too much time in doing all different kinds of planning meetings and things that aren't going to be developed anyway, because you are putting so much time into the process that you're not then actually delivering, because you don't have enough time to have developers working on the actual problems. You can make sure that there's time allotted to automate repetitive tasks. You can make sure that the team has good trust, so that they can talk to each other and they have good collaboration between them. And you can know that so if one gets sick, making sure that the other one feels that they can recover and come back, and then work in full power, full output once they're back from sick leave. You can make sure that they have an environment where they can focus. You can make sure that they are motivated. That's a big one. Figuring out what motivates your team. For example, in my team, I have one developer who's really motivated by just competition, not winning per se, but he likes a competition. He also likes a really difficult problem to solve. He likes a challenge. And that's a really motivating thing to make. Knowing what motivates your team means that you can phrase problems in ways that makes it easier for them to work with them. You can manage expectations between your team and other teams, so that there's no unnecessary conflict in the interaction between teams, and that the teams understand the priorities that are going on. And last but not least, you can manage your developers' stress levels. Did I miss anything? Well, if I missed anything, please drop a message in the comments below. And if you have anything constructive to bring to this subject matter, please add, because the more we learn, the better we are. But the point is, you can do a lot to improve the output of your developer team. And it's a lot about how your team works and their environment. And it also is, what expectations do you have across other teams? Making sure that the stress levels of your developers are at a low enough level so it doesn't interrupt their work capacity because they get too flustered to actually produce good solutions. Because if you get flustered, if your team gets flustered and they can't deliver, everything will start going slower. Ultimately, it's your job as a leader to manage your developers so that they can do their best work without burning out. Managing stress is a big part of that, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. From minimizing technical debt and creating a nice environment, every small improvement, all of them, they stack up, a compounding interest of improvements that makes your team better and better as you learn to manage stress, learn to work together, increase trust in your team. By focusing on these incremental improvements, you can create a team that thrives under pressure, but not because of it. And when you do that, deadlines are going to become milestones and not stress points.